I really like the look of the duo of Parrott and Ogbene up top when they played. Luke mentioned them on the counter attack.
Obviously, we did miss an entire generation talent coming through of, you know, young players being overlooked, the investment not being right from the John Delaney era with the FAI and the damage that has done.
I think you'd be better off almost having Troy as the number 9 as the focal point, and it might sound weird if you look at the body shape of the two of them, but I think Troy is actually better at occupying centre backs than Evan is in terms of back to goal play.
Welcome back to episode 2 of Inside the Boys in Green. I am Graham O'Toole, and as we track the Irish players as we edge closer to those all-important playoffs in March, we're joined again by Mr. Paul Nealon. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
And what an honour. TalkSport Ireland's Luke Delaney on the couch. How are you, Luke?
I'm very good, lads. Thanks for having me up. I was on the bench last week, watching from afar.
Yeah.
Made me quite hungry for this time around, so I'm here, and I'm ready to give my opinion on all things Irish football.
Well, we are 8 weeks out until that all-important game against Czechia, and Pavel Nedved, Paul, has shot the first shots. What are we saying?
Look, to be honest, I from his point of view, I get it. Like, he's just trying to, I suppose he was doing an interview with the Czech media outlet, and he was just trying to give kind of his opinion on the new manager that's come in, and kind of, I think it's probably just to give Czechia fans like hope. Not saying that we're going to go there and smash it, because I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it's going to be very close, but I think from like reading it, like he's just basically trying to, from what I gather, is like reassure fans that they're going to do everything it takes to get to the World Cup, and that's all I really read into it. Like, but when you hear someone like him who's obviously so renowned worldwide, you do listen, you know.
Yeah. Who do we have to be afraid of with the Czech team, Luke? We've got 2 West Ham players, Soufal, Souček. Is there anyone else there that we recognise that could cause us some problems?
I think probably their main goal threat would be Patrick Schick. Now, by no means are Czechia the team they once were, probably in the mid-2000s, when you had your Thomas Rosickis, your Collar, Petr Cech, but I suppose they're definitely saying the exact same thing about us. But I'd say Patrick Schick, you know, he's been doing well enough in the Bundesliga. He was their top scorer in the qualifying campaign as well. I think he got 67 goals, so he's a threat. He's a big target man, but I'm sure one of our 5 centre halves we're likely to line up with will likely have him under wraps.
There's a new Celtic signing as well as Czech, so you know, he came on the other day against Hearts and set up a goal. So
Scales, leave one in on him maybe. Before.
We discussed last week about Josh Cullen. He's obviously out of the playoff. Any other fresh injury concerns you have to be aware of?
No, but I did see the Patrick Dorgu, if we did potentially face Denmark, he's out for about 10 weeks, so he would miss that period. So, and he's obviously in the form of his life after scoring that goal the other. So that's, not that I celebrate other players being injured, but that could be one that maybe could come into our, you know, kind of reckoning. I think Robbie Brady is one who could be back, which could be a big one as well, because he's back on the grass. I don't know what the update in terms of him being back, but I think he's aiming to be back for those playoffs. Again, it could be a good one, because we end up with Liam Scales obviously against Hungary as the left wing back, but if we have Robbie back there, it's kind of more of a natural fit, and we obviously then have Ryan Manny as well, but I think more places up for grabs the better.
Well, we are 8 weeks out, and I want to put the two of you to the test to set your starting 11 if the game was being played today. Obviously a lot can change between now and the playoff, so Paul, we'll start with you. First of all, we're talking formations. Like, what formations are going to go for? What formation would you go for to match your team?
Well, I think just kind of keeping it as simple as the last kind of couple of games. It was kind of more of a 3-5-2 sort of formation in the way he did with the back 3 wing backs, midfield, and then kind of up front. So that's the way I would probably go, but I'm open to.
I too have a back 3/5, whatever way you look at it. Okay. I can't see him drifting from that, especially away from home in Prague. So I was kind of in 2 minds when we were speaking about doing this on the team I'd select, or the team I reckon he'd select. So I've gone somewhat in the middle.
All right. Well, keeper goes out saying, I presume both of you putting Keller in?
100%.
No, I've gone Bazoon. So this is the team that we want to start, not necessarily the team.
No, what would you do, Paul, if you're in charge? So Keller in goal, where are you going with your defence?
I think again, do you know, actually I'm going to be, this might be a bit controversial, leaving Darragh O'Shea out, but just on the pure balance of things, I'd go Jake O'Brien, right centre back, Nathan Collins centre back, and then Liam Scales just for that natural left side, left centre back.
Okay.
That's my back three.
Luke, agree, disagree?
So when you said you're leaving Darragh O'Shea out, I've done the same, but I've gone for a slightly different back three. I've Coleman in that right centre back, Nathan Collins, and Jake O'Brien. That's my back three. But yeah, Darragh O'Shea will definitely feel hard done by that, because he's never really put a foot wrong in
why are we leaving O'Shea out?
My thing is just purely when Darragh O'Shea is playing, normally he's kind of like the left centre, and he kind of has to come back on his right foot more often than not, whereas Scales can just get the ball and kind of just go up that left hand side. It's just purely down to that. Like, it's literally, it's just a toss up between the two of them. It's not really anything in particular.
And who are you going either side then?
So if Robbie Brady's fit, he's not fit now, isn't he? So Ryan Manning then, because we're going off players who are fit now, and then Seamus is back and he's on the bench the last 2 games, and he didn't play coming up to the Portugal-Hungary game, so he played those. So I'm going to go Seamus on the right side then.
Luke? So obviously I have Seamus at right centre back. I've gone Cheo Ogbeni, right wing back. I'd really like to see that. He's obviously had a tough last few years. There was a while when we really did rely on him, just chances created, popping up with a goal, and I think he'd give us great flexibility in terms of hitting on the counter attack. On the other side, kind of gone the other way, I've actually Liam Scales left wing back. I think a few things. I think very good on the ball, gives you that extra presence defensively, having that sort of extra centre half that I potentially could have lost by having Coleman in the back three. But I think he can grab you a goal as well, and we saw the threat he had against Hungary in the final stages. So I've got Benny off the right wing back and Liam Scales left wing back.
Cullen out, so who are we putting in midfield?
In the 6, I'm going to go Malumbi. I just think he did it. He had a really good performance against Portugal away, and I think then people kind of went, actually, this lad can do that job if needs be. So I'd go him there. Are we picking a midfield 3 then?
Yeah.
Finn Azaz, I think, has to be in there, based on the creativity and the assists that he gets. I think he links up well with the forwards as well. Not going to give away my forwards just yet. And then I'd probably just go for energy around the midfield and just getting around Jason Knight. I think that's it's good balance all around there, I think.
Luke?
I think that will be the 3 that Hamer will go with. But I remember being seriously frustrated watching that when we needed a goal still on the 60th minute mark in Hungary. And a player that hasn't really been in the fold in recent international windows, but is back in form now in the championship, is Alan Brown. Popped up with a goal or 2 as well. I think maybe a slightly more attacking threat than Malumbi, but I think I'd go with Alan Brown and Jason Knight as my 2. And similar to Paul, I'd have Finn Azaz further forward, because I think he's one of very few players that we have that can thread a pass, eye of a needle, and potentially create something out of nothing, outside the boot pass, passing between lines. He probably does get dispossessed quite a lot, but what decent 10 doesn't?
It's because he's trying things, isn't he? I think he actually went into the deeper role, and that's when everybody said that he actually turned the game when he went into the deeper role. So that could be interesting. Does he come deeper and someone else is ahead of him? But as you say, this is kind of our opinion on them.
Up top, Paul?
This probably going to sound controversial, but I really like the look of the duo of Parrott and Ogbene up top when they played. Luke mentioned him on the counter attack, but people, I don't think, remember that he won the penalty for Troy Parrott to score the goal in Hungary, and he was just really good at kind of opening up teams. And I just think then if you got Troy doing that, I think Troy and Finn Azaz link up really well, as was seen with the second goal as well. And then there was against Bulgaria, I think it was Troy set up Finn for the goal as well. So there's a good dynamic between them there. And I know people are going to go, Evan Ferguson. I understand that, but again, just there's a emphasis on balance on the team, and I think having an Evan Ferguson to come off the bench when we need a goal would be huge, I think, and potentially Adam Ida could be back by then as well, so them off the bench could be good.
Luke, are you going to go for balance? Are you going to try and get the 2 lads up top?
I'm trying to get our 2 big name forwards in. I'd go Ferguson, I'd go Parrott. I actually think that it probably is going to be one or the other in Hamer's mind.
Yeah,
I'd love to see the 2 of them, and I think that they could definitely play together. They're both intelligent enough, both great footballers, football and IQ, and playing quite a high level. I even think from threat, Czechia looking at a front 2 of Parrott and Ferguson, I'd be probably more afraid as a Czechia centre back than if we had someone else.
Could I just make a point? I think if that is the way to do it, I think you'd be better off almost having Troy as the number 9 as the focal point. And it might sound weird if you look at the body shape of the two of them, but I think Troy is actually better at occupying centre backs than Evan is in terms of back to goal play. So if you had almost Evan almost as a slightly deeper, almost the way you can see sometimes Harry Kane used to do, where he'll drop deep and play balls in between, I think Evan's good enough to do that as well. So if that is a case where it goes that way, I can definitely see that as a threat. But I definitely think Troy needs to be the focal point, because that's what he is at Alkmaar. He's the one who gets the ball in, he plays it off the players, and then he's the one getting into the box to try and get on the end of things. Because before that, he used to be always the man kind of being the one who's the playmaker now, but he's a far better person to get on the ball, get in the box, get on the end of it.
Okay. Well, go on, Luke.
It's a great problem to have, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. It
wasn't long ago Shane Duffy was winning goal of the year because he was the only one who scored in 2021.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% in agreement with that.
You've given us your starting 11s. I'm going to ask you for 2 more players, okay? 1 wild card that's currently playing, and 1 blast from the past. 1 player that can come in from any era of Irish football and help us out for these qualifiers. But no Keanes, either Roy or Robbie, no Duff.
Okay.
All right, so think a little bit about it. Blast from the past and a wild card. Paul, what are we saying?
Just on the wild card, so is that someone who's actively playing now who maybe didn't
can actually be called up?
That's tough. Obviously, like for context, the last kind of probably wild card people would say it was Kevin O'Toole from New York City. There's no real kind of standout. What do you think?
I think for my blast from the past, I was giving it some thought, and the player I loved growing up was Stephen Ireland. And could you imagine him in behind the front two of Ferguson and Parrott? That 2008, 2009 season with Man City, they were bringing in all their riches and he was still winning player of the year for them. So Stephen Ireland would be mine, albeit his Irish career didn't go quite to plan. And I think current, maybe I'm sticking with this a similar style. I know perhaps the last move over to the MLS didn't really work, but I'm a big fan of Andrew Moran, and I think he's got a type of talent and a ceiling higher than a lot of this Irish team. And I know it hasn't really worked out as of yet, but I still think there's a way to integrate him into this Irish side and to really get the best of him. Like Paul, you probably watched him at 21s and 18s, 19s, and was always the best player on the pitch.
Yeah.
So
captain as well.
Maybe Finn Azaz won't be too fond of what I'm saying here, but I think we can get potentially something else. And like you said there, Finn could go a bit deeper.
Yeah.
But Stephen Ireland, proper 10. We saw Wes Houlihan do it over the years. That sort of a player. So I think Andrew Moran could be that.
Thoughts on that, Paul?
Yeah, I'd probably go, because there's not too many like that we can say, oh, they're a wild card and bring them in that would actually make a difference. But like Moran would make sense there. I was thinking potentially along the lines of maybe Connor Coventry as the 6. He did come on against Hungary.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think like, is that really counting as a wild card then? You know what I mean? So I probably have to go with either of them. In terms of a standout player over the years, someone who always popped up with a goal, I'd probably say a Matt Holland, just purely down to the fact that he did score important goals. And this would be one where I'd want a big goal. Like you think of the goal he scored against Portugal away, and then you think of the goal he scored against Cameroon in the World Cup. Like he was one of them who just loved to strike from distance, and he was fairly reliable and stuff like that. So I'd probably just go with him. I know it's not like a huge blockbuster name, but I'm trying to think of someone who would have an effect that I can't put in the other names, Yeah.
I was watching Saipan on Sunday and that 2002 World Cup squad, and it got me thinking, was that the last kind of tournament squad that was full to the brim of actual Irish players playing in the Premier League? Like when you look at that starting 11 against Germany as well, and that squad in general, like we've gone a long way in the last 25 years or so from that type of Irish footballer that is like peppered throughout the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, you think you're seeing that. Like you think of like Seamus Coleman was probably an ever-present in the Premier League, but you're going to go down through the list, there's not too many others when you're kind of looking at consistently playing at that. Matt Doherty was probably next on the list in terms of someone who was kind of regularly pushing on a good performance. Obviously, I'd say Seamus's kind of performances tailed after probably 2023. But other than that, he was an ever-present. But when you look around, kind of after that, there wasn't too many others.
Yeah. Luke, what's it down to? Is it down to just obviously Brexit as well? You've got the expansion of the Premier League. Now every single team has players internationally. Well, in the 90s, it was mainly like English, Irish, Scottish and Welsh.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can really do about it, bar investing more in football in this country?
Yeah, it's a wide range of things. I think even what you were saying there in terms of the balance that says in 2 squad, like you're leaving Premier League strikers like David Connolly and Clinton Morrison on the bench because of the riches that you had at your disposal.
Yeah, Lee Carsley as well.
Yeah, like there was serious that like we would bite your hand off for any of those sort of players. I think it's saying a lot of things. Obviously, we did miss an entire generation of talent coming through of, you know, young players being overlooked, the investment not being right from the John Delaney era with the FAI and the damage that has done. And it wasn't really just when he was in there. We're still seeing the downfall of that even today when there's a whole, you look at Robbie Brady's era, there was kind of him and then nothing until this next era.
Him and Jeff, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, until like the likes of Troy and Evan were coming through. Like there was a whole generation gap where, you know, and you see it now where we've 23, 24-year-olds and then we've 34, 35-year-olds and there's very little in between there, bar the odd exception. So that has had a huge ripple effect on Irish football. And yeah, like you said there, obviously Brexit isn't helping. It is giving players a chance to go further afield though with Europe and to test their trade over there. And obviously the level of the Premier League has just got bigger and bigger. I do often wonder though, like you look at the amount of players that England are producing, even Scotland, like very few of our players be getting into that Scottish team, like probably 2 or 3 at a max. You'd love to aspire to be something like that because it wasn't long ago that we were giving them hidings, and even I suppose a few years ago with the Obafemi Screamer at the Aviva. Seems like a lifetime ago when you look at the quality of that Scottish team now.
Paul, you've been following the Irish team for quite some time. What can we do to get more players into the Premier League?
I think what Luke says is right there. Like there was a kind of generation skip. Like even in that period, you look at players like John Egan, who kind of came in. He was captain material and all. If you actually probably look at his caps, and maybe Matt Doherty as well, if you look at their caps in comparison to maybe others, you'd be kind of questioning, going, why did they take so long to be brought through? You know what I mean? So that's kind of I go back to what Luke's saying there. But if you took I just think it's down to investment and stuff like that. If you actually look at a lot of the kind of players, they've all had League of Ireland backgrounds and stuff like that. So I think the League of Ireland deserves a bit of credit there for the players that they have brought through. But in terms of that next level, I know Duff is always kind of talking about, you know, minutes on the ball, you know, all of this sort of stuff. And then I think there's an element of sometimes when Irish players go abroad that they get comfortable at a championship side or something like that. They get comfortable. That's the kind of thing that goes around anyway. That's been said. I don't know how true it is, but you know, you don't see too many of our players kind of maybe making the grade from the champion right up to the Premier League and stuff like that. And any of the players that tend to kind of go away to anywhere that's not your norm, like your Holland, like look at Troy now doing well, you know, even Festi done well at Udinese. So any of the players that seem to be going abroad have done quite well. Now I do think there's a good crop of young lads. If you watch the under-17 World Cup, we have a fair few good lads there. I think we've still got a couple of players like Boston Lowell and Andrew Moore who need a bit more development, who could potentially break through and get bigger moves and stuff like that. So yeah, it's the next couple of years are going to be vital. But if we can get ourselves to our World Cup, then that sets the tone to people in the government saying, hang on, we need to invest in stuff here, you know. And it's the same with the women's side of the game as well. They're begging for investment side of things as well, because they got to a World Cup recently as well.
Well, it was peak nostalgia watching Saipan in the 2002 World Cup. So together, lads, I want you to form your best ever Irish 11 that has played in the Premier League. So we got to work together as a team.
Okay.
Too,
and you're participating as well. Yeah?
I can participate as well. What kind of formation? We go for a 4-4-2?
I think for that sort of style, you would have to. Yeah. Is this all time ever?
All time.
Or are we going 4-3-3?
What would you like, Paul? You're the expert here.
I think 4-4-2 is very Irish. You know, it's where we probably get the best, say, team.
But playing devil's advocate, we do produce a lot more defensive players than attacking players.
So what you want to, yeah, but you'd still be 4-3-3, it'd still be 4.
I'd nearly go 5 at the back.
Come on, this is in dreamland, Luke. Let's not go ultra defensive.
Yeah, true.
Come on,
we're not going for Mark.
We can do this. We can do it. What are we doing? 4 at the back. Goalkeeper. Are we saying Shea Given or Keller?
This is Premier League as
Premier
well,
League.
so it's not like
Yeah, we'll leave out the Ronnie Whelans and the...
okay.
Yeah.
Shay Given, hands
Jay
down.
Given over Keller. Happy with that?
We'll go
Well,
with that.
Kelleher, in 15 years we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. So our back four. We're going for a back four.
I think centre back Paul McGrath has to be in there.
Paul McGrath and
I'm going to say Richie Dunn.
Richard Dunn.
I think I'd go John O'Shea.
I think Richie Dunn, because he was more influential for the Man City team and he won Player of the Year so many times. That's
True.
my...
Luke, you're outnumbered here.
I know.
We're Richie
No, but
Dunn.
John, listen, John O'Shea, Mr. Reliable, and if you look at the trophies he's won, but I'm talking about just purely down to, he went to Villa as well when they were doing quite well. He was at City. He was at Everton actually as well before he moved to City. Didn't really work out for him, but I thought he really forged out a really good career. And if you talk to anyone, they really rate how good he was.
I'm happy with Richard Dunn. It's a throw up.
Okay.
Paul McGrath start.
Right back and left back.
I'll let you go first because I've jumped the gun on a couple.
So I think right back's very tough. And I know Seamus is the best player we've produced probably over the last 20 years. But I think there has to be, I'm happy to include Seamus Coleman, but I think there has to be a special mention for Steve Finnan. Man who's really gone under the radar since retiring. Champions League medal in the Miracle of Istanbul, following year in FA Cup, and ever present at sides like Fulham beforehand in the early 2000s. And I think for Liverpool fans, a very underrated right back, probably our second best after Trent. But I'm happy to go Seamus Coleman just because how much I love the man and how reliable he is. And I do think if he had played at a better club, without anything, a more trophy challenging club than Everton, we could be saying that he'd have
Careful,
more titles.
Paul is grimacing there.
No, I think what you're saying makes sense. But I would also add in Gary Kelly.
Yeah, super.
Leeds, ever present.
True.
He's adored at Leeds, and don't forget that was during a period where Leeds were unreal and they were good every year up until obviously they had their financial problems. So that position, I think right back is extremely tough to pick one. Obviously my favourite person there would be Seamus Coleman. I'm going to stick with Seamus, so if I'm outnumbered, I'm outnumbered, but I do think there's three really top candidates there.
I think we got to go with Seamus.
I think we got to go Seamus. I'm back with
I like
Seamus
this
Coleman.
game. I like
No, I'm backing you. Don't you worry. Left back, Ian Hart.
Dennis Irwin.
I think Irwin, but Ian Hart has to be up there as well, doesn't he? From like you're saying,
His goals are unreal. His left foot is was like Beckham with a left foot. If you actually go back and watch his goals, unreal. But I think Dennis Irwin for how many Premier Leagues? Probably like 8 or something like that. I think it is. I could be wrong, but in and around that, and an ever present. Alex Ferguson said if he was picking an all-time 11, he'd be a cert. So I think you can't really argue with that.
Yeah, I think I'll go Dennis Irwin as well. Yeah.
Our two centre midfielders, obviously a man from Cork, another one, Roy Keane.
I thought you were going to say Conor Howard.
And Liam Brady, I think.
Was he Premier League though?
Oh, sorry, he wasn't.
It's tough Premier League wise.
Sorry, I went all-time there in my head for a second, sorry. Roy, absolutely.
Are we looking like at a Glenn Whelan or Stephen Ireland in terms of impact and time played in the Premier League?
Matt Holland's up there as well, don't forget. In terms of an so it's kind of, is it more so on the time that they did with Ireland and the Premier League, or is it kind of how they've featured in the Premier League?
The way I kind of looked at it was like who had the biggest impact in the Premier League.
I mean, over a couple of seasons, Stephen Allen was unreal.
Yeah.
I can't deny that. Absolutely can't deny that. I think Glenn Whelan for consistency though.
Yeah, and when that Stoke team first came to Premier League 2008, 2009, he's even popping up at winners in games.
And when he left, they got relegated.
Yeah. I'd be happy with Glenn Whelan.
Glenn Whelan and Roy Keane. Yeah. Let's do it.
Doesn't leave us with many goals, but look.
Well,
it's a shorter window, you know what I mean? If we had Liam Brady in there, obviously he's not Premier League.
Ronnie Whelan.
Exactly. So we have to kind of deal with the cards we have.
Who's going on our wings?
Duff left.
Duff on the left.
Oh, see, right wing's a tough one, isn't it? It's like there's like Liam Lawrence for like Stoke or something. Then you had like McAteer with Liverpool and Blackburn and Sunderland. And Ray Houghton was there for a little bit. Liverpool, who's kind of seen as our kind of go-to right side. Would Andy Reid be on that side of things as well?
Duff on the right and Kilban on the left, potentially.
You could. He did that he did play for Ireland on the right a few times, yeah. I think you could do that. I'm trying to think, is there anyone else who kind of stand out mainly, but I don't think there really
was McGeady for a few years, but never sent the world. Well, McLean actually probably isn't too
Premier League though, because he spent a lot of the time in the lower leagues as well. So Kilbana was like, he even got Everton to fourth one year, and he was the mainstay left winger there, as well. So, and he was at Sunderland there, and he was at Wigan and a couple of other clubs. Duff's in anyways.
Yeah, it's got to be Duff, and then I think it's a flip of the coin between probably 3 or 4 the other we mentioned. Jason McAteer for some big moment potentially after that amazing cream suit in the FA Cup final.
For the Holland goal, I'll throw him in because I was ball boy for that game. So
right,
I'll throw him in for that.
We'll go Jason McAteer.
Perfect.
McAteer right, Duff left.
Right. And up top we got, I presume, a record scorer, Robbie Keane. Who you put beside Robbie?
Our other record scorer before him, Quinn.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
I like Shane Long though.
Well, Premier League. I think if you look at Quinn, right, he played in a really good Arsenal team.
Yeah.
Long was never at that like proper top level. He was always like a mid-tier team.
Yeah.
He was at like a whole West Brom, Reading, Southampton again. They were never like, I think they got 7th or 8th. Now Quinn was never a mainstay with Arsenal in terms of, he's been Sunderland and Man City as well, but it wasn't obviously the City now. So I mean, I'd be happy to toss that one up, but I think if you're judging it off goals, like again, Quinn was, I think, the second. He broke the goal scoring record, and then Robbie just smashed.
Yeah, true.
Over time,
Yeah, no,
I like a big man and a small man up top.
Yeah, they've worked. They can work they've worked before.
But Robbie and Quinn were unreal together.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
I think we'll go with that.
All right, not a bad starting 11.
Jeez,
all right.
You'd bite a hand off now after March, wouldn't you?
The only thing is, I think people, if they're listening and they're commenting, I think they're going to be like, how Glenn Whelan and Roy Keane. I think there'll probably be a case of someone else to come in ahead of Glenn, but I think they should go and look at the stats of the clubs that he played for. You don't forget, he got Villa back up to the Premier League as well. I know he didn't play after that, but he was an ever-present, reliable person, and probably, in my opinion, should have got 100 caps for Ireland.
Well, one of those players we have in the starting 11 isn't doing too bad managing abroad. Robbie Keane. And you've taught me how to say this club. Ferencváros.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, Paul. You've had a chat with Robbie. You're very impressed with him, and you've kind of have a look at his tactics as well. How's Robbie getting on in Hungary?
Very good. They're still unbeaten in Europe. They got a good result last week. And they're facing Forest now this week in the Europa League. So they're unbeaten. They're into the knockout stages already. And I think I did a video on it last week and just kind of talking about how he's developing a lot of players. Now he's lost 2 of his best players with Alex Toth, who would have played for Bournemouth. He just signed for them. He would have played in the game against Liverpool the other day. And then
Thanks for reminding us, Paul. Cheers.
Just saying, yeah. And then Varga, who obviously was the guy banging in the goals, he had 20 goals in the league, and then obviously he'd scored a good few in the World Cup qualifiers as well. I feel like he really brought them on. He seems to kind of play like a 3-5-2, but from talking to him, is he actually just likes to have 3 centre backs, and the rest is just attacking.
Yeah,
but there's kind of like there's a rule over in Hungary where they have to play, it's got introduced at the start of the year, where they have to play 5 Hungarian players at all times on the pitch, and one of them has to be like an under 21 player. So every time he substitutes, so that obviously would have been Alex Toth, who's now gone, so he has to replace them, and the squad was kind of built for Europe, so there's way more foreigners than there is Hungarians, so it kind of limits, like, and he has to kind of almost make 2 subs at once to fix an area of the pitch. But he also, if you think about it, if you're playing a game and you're trying to hang on and you don't want to bring on an inexperienced person, you want to bring on an experienced person, he has to bring on 2 to try and kind of see a game out. So he's kind of operating with one hand behind his back over there, in my opinion, but I think he's doing a really good job. And then they're obviously doing really well in Europe and punching above their weight there as well. I think it was Panathinaikos to play the other night and got a draw there.
Luke, if Thomas Frank departs from Spurs, do you think Robbie Keane's name will be in that?
I think it has to be. Sort of the era of, club legends coming back as well. We look at the impact Michael Carrick's had at United. I think Robbie's well suited to it. I think he's sort of played the long game. You know, he's done the work behind the scenes. You know, he was obviously in Israel beforehand, before going to Hungary, and you know, seems to have the team operating at a very high level. Still so highly thought of in the Premier League, and it seems like it's only a matter of time for Thomas Frank as well. It's been a woeful start. At least with Ange, they were near the bottom of the table. They were having a bit of crack watching them. They're 6-7 goals a game. Spurs are atrocious to watch. If I was a Spurs fan, I'd be fuming. And, you know, they're probably the best players are probably going to be on there in the summer with Van de Ven lining up, you know, probably looking at Liverpool and seeing Liverpool needing a centre back. But yeah, I think Keane should definitely be in a shout for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd say will be Premier League teams.
Think he's ready, Paul?
I don't think he's in any rush to go to Spurs. I think he'd probably look. I think he'll probably look at going somewhere else, kind of near where he is now, whether that's Turkey or somewhere like that. He's not in a rush. And not often speaking to him, I think he still feels like he wants to kind of explore. He's kind of like at a player kind of on his journey, kind of similar to what Troy Parrott is kind of now. He's kind of at that level, and I don't think he's in a rush because of, you know, one wrong turn can really turn managers at the moment. So I think he is suited to be a Spurs manager in the future, but just not right now. I think he still has a little bit of kind of growing and learning to do. But yeah, who better to go into Spurs at some point, knowing the club as well as he does, a club legend. And if you think of all the clubs that he played for, that was kind of like his home, you know, and he's so well respected there by so many players, and 100 goals in the Premier League or whatever, you know, people would listen to him.
And some big news for League of Ireland as James McLean moves to Derry City, moves back to Derry. Is this the highest profile player ever to move to the League of Ireland?
What do you think?
I think it's definitely up there. From my recent memory, I think it definitely is.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's great. It brings eyes on the league. Also for his sake, I'd say he's happy to get away from all the abuse. It seems to be the case.
Nice farewell to the away fans there the last night. Two fingers up.
Yeah, but like that's so like James McLean. It was so funny. But yeah, I think him coming back, it shows a lot of other players that he can come back, and you know, he's obviously looking to have that kind of fairy tale ending where he'll help Derry get to the league, and you know, their owner is a billionaire and he can afford to bring players back like that. So you might even see someone else come in before then, who knows, but they're really trying to go for the league this year, and look, if it makes for a good title race between them and Shamrock Rovers, absolutely brilliant. So yeah, could be good. It could be a nice fairy tale for him, but we'll wait and see.
Quick roundup of the players who will hopefully be playing in March. Bad result again for Brentford. Collins and Keller, 2-0 defeat.
Yeah, not great. Keith Andrews came out then afterwards saying that they need to start taking their chances a bit more. Obviously a ruthless league, and you know, and all it takes is 2 or 3 results not to go your way, and pressure's back on despite how good it's been.
Yeah.
But I still think squad's good enough. I think he's good enough as a tactician as well to turn it back around. But not a great weekend for the Irish lads in the Premier League at all.
And a 1-1 draw last night. We're speaking on Tuesday with Everton. Jacob Ryan getting any game time?
Yeah, he went centre back, but we conceded. So it was the first time we conceded as a centre back. So that's out the window now. But yeah, look, Everton didn't really play too well, to be honest with you. They just looked like a couple of players were tired and stuff like that coming back from the AFCON, because they both came in and played, Guy and I. But yeah, Seamus was on the bench as well. Jake didn't do anything wrong or anything like that. It was just Everton weren't great, and yeah, they were kind of on the back foot for the first half, and then the second half they kind of got a grip on things. And but Jarrett Brantwaite came back, and Everton went to a back three in the second half, so it could be interesting to see is that how Jake continues, because Nathan Patterson became the right wing back.
And finally, you were chatting to a Roma journalist during the week about Evan Ferguson's future. Now, we are recording this Tuesday afternoon. A lot can change by the time you're listening to this yourselves, but as of now, it seems like his future, according to this journalist, is not going to be at Roma, he reckons. What did you learn from him?
He basically said that he thinks he's going to go to the Premier League no matter what, so he just says that's at the end of the season or now. But it basically comes down to the fact that Roma have bought 2 players for around 45 million. I think it's a loan with obligation between Daniel Mal and then Robinho Vaz from Marseille. So the whole purpose of Ferguson signing was they were bringing him over with a 40 million obligation to Brighton. The fact of the matter is, if they paid that, that would be near kind of like their record transfer if that was
I
the
was
case.
shocked with that one. I heard
Yeah.
because your head is kind of confused by the Premier League signings, and when you hear that Roma, that would have been a record signing of 40 million.
Yeah.
So then you take that into account. So they basically, what they could do there is they could get 2 players for the price of 1 in Vaz and Mal, and let Evan go. So that seems like that's what's going to happen, because they're under financial fair play restrictions. So that's why it seems as though he's going to be probably gone by the end of the transfer window. To Fulham are linked, European clubs are linked. I'd prefer him to stay in Europe. I'd love to see, I know Troy Parrott was linked with Real Betis, but I would actually love to see Evan go somewhere like that, where it's, I think it's a league that would suit him.
Well, it'll all be changed by the time this comes out.
Yeah.
So who knows? Luke and Paul, thank you so much for joining us on Inside the Boys in Green. And join us next week for episode 3 as we edge closer to those playoffs in March. Thanks for joining us.